You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your special edition, and this is your most authoritative news analysis platform. It's brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa. As strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. Ashas University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services. Seeing is believing. Waylead Properties. Home is where one starts. DBS Industries. We truly are your roof experts. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. Duroplus, where Duroplus goes, water flows. The Barstow School, start here, go everywhere. So, you have heard from Dr. Benjamin Kombo. You have heard Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafo, and of course, as a while ago, you heard from Bright Simmons. Now, let's go to Professor Emerita of African Studies, University of Ghana, Legon, Professor Techiwa Manuh. Of course, she towers among the women in this country who have spearheaded the issues of gender equality, gender equity, questions of the affirmative action bill that has been pending in Parliament for so long. I don't know if we need to do another right to information style of, activism and advocacy to get it passed or not. And recently, she was with the notable Ghanaian citizens who had issues with the Proper Human Values Bill. Thank you so very much, Professor Techiwa Manuh, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Samson, and good morning again, and good morning to my fellow panelists and to the many people who are listening or watching us across Ghana. So, Samson, let me attempt to congratulate you and your team for your attempt at gender parity. I'm sure that this must be one of the few programs where there has been an attempt, not quite successful, given our proportions in the population, to ensure that women's voices are heard. And thank you also for inviting me to this, your retrospective. I hope that as the year goes on, mid-year, you can also congregate for us to look at how things are going, so some things can be tweaked before the end of the year. I think notwithstanding how people look, I must be the oldest person on this panel. Stephen Asari can disagree, Dr. Kumbo can disagree. I'm turning 70 in May, so I know that I'm the oldest person on this panel. So listening to both Dr. Kumbo and Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafo, some of the issues that they've spoken about, I feel like it's like something that is stuck in the groove. It's like, we've been hearing the same things over and over again. And you're asking yourself, is anybody listening? When I listen to Bryce Simmons just share his PowerPoint right now, you know what I was thinking, Samson, that I'm looking forward to you assembling the Minister of Finance, Bryce Simmons, and a whole number of other people on your program to speak to these issues, because sometimes it's almost like, why are you always bringing people who are saying these things? Why are you not bringing them together with what you call the authority holders or office bearers or something? I think they are ordinary citizens, because we don't often get this dialogue between the citizenry and the office holders. We read of interviews that they give to foreign journalists, etc., but we don't have enough of this. So this is my charge to you, that really all these issues, whether it's on employment, whether it's on the direction of the economy or the Euro bonds and the Africa bonds and whatever, that we can have some dialogue on these matters.
Thank you very much. I can assure you that we'll take this cue.
Thank you. So going on to my issues, and I also want to stress that, of course, we are all interested in the different issues that are being articulated here. When I listened to both Dr. Kumbo and Dr. Chumesi Bafo to Dr. Simmons, I can see because what I'm going to talk about, it's almost like the fallout of all these things, the insecurities that are generated in our national politics and in our economy, get pushed onto other people who are usually more vulnerable. So I'll speak very briefly on the promotion of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, quite a mouthful, 2021. It is still pending, and we, at this stage, we are pleased that we got a hearing from the committee, and we'll be looking forward to the committee's work as the year goes on. I just wanted to say something small about this. This week, I heard the Minister of Information on the Probe, one of your sister programs, talk about the genesis of the bill. And I think that it's not correct. Okay, so he's saying that for his words were that for centuries, Ghanaians have lived with people of different sexualities. They haven't done any, Ghanaians have not reacted, but that they were, and this is my word, they were provoked when gays and lesbians tried to set up a cultural center to kind of promote their lifestyle. That is what people found intolerable. And yet when you go to the promoters, as in May 2018, the national coordinator, Mr. Foamweni, was vowing to have a bill passed by the end of 2018. So it is not new. The bill is not new. And I'd suggest that for anybody who cares, they go through the history, the archives, to see the genesis of this bill. So it's been a work in progress for a long time. It is still a work in progress. The outcome is not, and I agree with the minister here, the outcome is not guaranteed at all. But for many of us, as you have been insisting, the Constitution is our grundnorm, right? It is the fount of everything. So in everything that we do, we must go to our Constitution. We must also go to the different conventions and treaties that we are part of and see whether our intended acts sync with those commitments that we have put on ourselves. Now, the main things I wanted to speak about were issues around gender equality. And last year, I guess there was a high when we had a trio of female principal officers appointed or come into office at the University of Ghana.
That's right.
This was a first, not only for Ghana, but in the world. I don't believe that you will find any institution in the world where concurrently the Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, the Chancellor, the Chair of Council, the Chief Academic Officer, the Legal Counsel are all female, okay? So this is one positive thing that happened last year. What does it say to me? What it says to me is that we have a lot of qualified persons and a lot of qualified women in Ghana. And I expect you and everybody else to reflect this talent in your programs, in the appointments, etc., that occur in this country. It is really important. Ghanaian women have served Ghana. They serve in our communities, our mothers, all the, as somebody says, because we don't give them names, right? The home economists and the human resource managers in our homes who are able to make magic with often very meager resources, okay? And they have served at the continental and in the international level. And yet, Ghana still lags behind. I was thinking yesterday, I went to watch 2 days ago, I went to watch the documentary When Women Speak, which I recommend to all of you.
Okay.
And we know that more than 50 years ago, 1959, Ghana pioneered in affirmative action when it passed the Representation of the People Women Members Act by not, it made, but in the end, it was not elected. They were selected, appointed. 10 women at the time in the 110 or 90-person cabinet parliament at the time. More than 50 years later, what is our record? We live in a sub-region which is, a poor neighborhood. But even in this poor neighborhood, Ghana is far behind Senegal, Ghana is far behind Cape Verde and other places. And we have not really done well. And we know that there has been an attempt at legislating affirmative action policy, first as a cabinet directive in the 1990s, and later from the 2000s, we've gone to Parliament, and each time the bill has died with Parliament. So we have had no private members' bill to push affirmative action, and there just seems to be no interest. And we talk about this in the film, and in the end, I think the clear conclusion is that men who have the power do not want to share it, because when the affirmative action bill comes into law, many things are going to have to change. So really, it's not good enough. We will begin the process again. This is the end of 1 year, and we know that in 2023, people will be all focused on elections, etc. So Ghana, and with our president as the African Union gender champion, etc., we really have not done well on affirmative action, and we need to do better.
Okay.
Now, the other thing I wanted to speak about in terms of gender equality was the spate of wife and girlfriend killings, femicides, that rocked Ghana in 2021. Between January and August 2021, NetRights, the Network for Women's Rights in Ghana, recorded over 21 women who were murdered. And for us, it resembled 1999, 2000, when we had a spate of killings of women, murders of women around Accra, mostly. There were 1 or 2 in Kumasi, but mostly Accra. And for us, this reflects the insecurities that women face in their communities and in their homes. And much of this insecurity is derived from the larger processes that both Priscilla and Bright were speaking about, the national and personal insecurities, which then get deflected on women who are accused of witchcraft, who, everybody just vents their frustrations on them. The men vent their frustrations on these women. And sometimes in what happened last year, women were killed, sometimes even with their children or in front of their children. Now, of course, this is not a miracle. The 2019 study that ISA at the University of Ghana conducted on the economic and social cost of violence against women found that 43% of currently partnered women in intimate relations had suffered gender-based violence. And what they did in that study was to document the cost, both the human, the social, the psychological, as well as the economic and productivity costs of violence against women. Some of the conclusions that were suggested was that, and also in the NetRights statement, was that there should be the creation of safe spaces for women. There should be more action from government, from the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, from the police and DOFSU, etc., but also from our schools and educational institutions and the homes on the whole culture of respect and peace and tolerance. Dr. Kumbo was talking about values, and I think that values need to be approached in a holistic manner, that respect for women and for gender equality, for tolerance, should be part of the values that we inculcate in our young people throughout our lives. And so that when people grow, these are not things that they are having to learn. I think that this is important, that we begin to understand that we cannot develop this society without more than half of its talent, that all the issues that we're speaking about inure to women as well as men, and that women are human beings, they are citizens, they have rights, and those rights need to be respected.
Prof, about women representation in governance, say in parliament and also in the ministries. The Global Parliament, that is the IPU, Interparliamentary Union, is requiring that for countries that are still not doing well, they must have at least 30% of women representation by, I think, 2024, or they will be reduced in the Global Parliament to observer status. What can we also do to force, some of these things to happen? Because it must happen.
Thank you. I think that when it begins to hurt, then we begin to take things more seriously. Culture is often used as a defense. And yet look at Senegal. It's a Muslim-dominant country. It passed the gender parity law, and it has 50% women in its parliament. It doesn't mean that in other areas of the society that representation is equal. So I think that, first of all, we need to trumpet that. We need to ask our president respectfully what being the AU champion, gender champion, means concretely in the area of Ghana. I think that 2 or so years ago, the president went to Vancouver to the Women Deliver conference, where he ruffled some feathers and was in turn ruffled in his remarks. So I think that certainly the gender advocates, and here we do not just want it restricted to gender advocates.
Right.
We want Bryce Simmons, all the different CSOs to come together, because this is not just a fight by women. It is a fight about women, about gender equality, about the direction of our societies. So we want it not to be seen as, oh, this is something, a problem for women. It is a problem for society, of society, and we see it in its impact. We find that when, these women who are killed, their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, it hurts a lot of people. It hurts their children, it hurts the communities, it hurts the society. So I think that more and more society must reflect it. And that's why I talk about the power of educational institutions, the power of our churches, the power of our traditional authorities and communities. We need a uniform and a consensual voice on this matter.
Prof, I find something rather curious that, for example, at the universities, we don't particularly see that there's any deliberate policy. But for example, at the University of Ghana, at least the last few years, we continue to see, for example, at the law school, that the enrollment, women have overtaken the females have overtaken males, to a point where you have had almost over 70% of a law class being women. So how is this? It's curious to me, because there's no deliberate policy, and yet this is going on. Very good.
Yes, it is good. But when you begin to look at the statistics, recently I was doing a proposal and I was shocked. When you get to the professoriate, the percentages have not changed much over time. A lot of female in the academy are still clustered in the lecturer and senior lecturer positions. Many who are quite talented do not go beyond senior lecturerships. Not always because they do not have the talent. Sometimes their juggling of domestic and other responsibilities do not allow it. Sometimes they also do it for very practical reasons. Your husband is Mr. Somebody, and you're going to be working with Mr. and Mrs. Professor so-and-so, and some of the women censor themselves. They won't even dare. I think that many more should try and do it and let their husbands also enjoy the partnership of having professors as wives. But the law faculty, but if you went to medicine, you may not find that same cluster,
That's right.
So it's interesting, and maybe we need some detailed studies of how in some clusters, this is happening, and yet in other clusters, when you go into the physics and engineering. But interestingly, you know, I read a study recently in Benin. They have parity, gender parity in engineering between males and females. So there's a lot happening. So some of what you say globally, if you go to, let's say, American universities, you find that there are so many females there in PhD courses, etc. And of course, the fact that women are represented there does not necessarily mean that their status is improving in society, but it is important. So I think that this Interparliamentary Union reduction of observer status may begin to send a signal, because you know we have all these safe seats which political parties could easily put women in, and they will not do it. They say this is competitive. When it comes, you know, the women should also come in and elbow it out with us.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Professor Techiwa Manuh, Professor Emerita of African Studies, University of Ghana. We thank you so very much for making time and sacrificing your precious time to prepare and to share with us your knowledge in this area.